We are now looking potentially at the single most bizarre election night.
Not only that we've covered, but that
ever.
The 2000 presidential election almost tore America apart. An election that came down to just over 500 votes in a single state, and a confusing ballot within one of its counties that led thousands to accidentally vote for the wrong candidate. 20 years later, in 2020, record numbers of early and mail-in ballots due to the COVID pandemic meant the outcome of the election was left unclear for 4 days. And of course, we all know what happened next. But for decades, India has been conducting the world's largest elections, with more voters than America has people. But here's the surprising part. Even with 4 times the voters, India counts its votes faster. And to understand why, we have to go back centuries, to what elections looked like when America was founded. The US Constitution gave the power to run elections to the states. And with it came the right to decide who was eligible to vote. So for centuries, most states restricted voting to white male landowners. It took centuries for that right to expand to all of America's adult citizens. States don't outwardly discriminate on race or gender today, but they still run their own elections. And it's the differences in how they do that result in the delays and controversies we've seen in recent decades. When India got its independence from Great Britain centuries later, it guaranteed voting rights for all in its constitution. America had centuries to develop its democratic traditions with only a small elite section of society taking part. India's experiment in democracy would begin with millions of people who weren't literate, who lived in poverty, who practiced different religions and spoke different languages. To successfully build a lasting democratic society, India needed to make its elections accessible and fair to all of these people. And so, rather than let the states run their own elections like in the US, India's founders created an independent body to administer elections across the country, the Election Commission of India. And over decades, the Election Commission would evolve and ultimately go to extremes to ensure people's right to vote. The Election Commission sends election officials into forests and swamps just to set up polling booths for a handful of voters, and in some cases, a single voter. They assign symbols to every political party so those who can't read or speak a different language can recognize who they want to vote for on voting machines. And they include representatives of all major political parties in every part of the electoral process to ensure transparency. But the story of how India counts its votes so fast begins in 2004, when the ECI rolled out electronic voting machines nationwide. Combined with the fact that the ECI does the exact same counting process across the country, votes are totaled and reported quickly nationwide, most often with little controversy. This carefully choreographed process, evolving over decades, is likely one of the reasons India has remained a flawed but stable democracy. In a world full of post-colonial countries that have fallen to military coups and dictatorships. Even in a long-standing democracy like America, its decentralized system allowed states to deny the voting rights of women and people of color for centuries. That only ended with the federal law and federal oversight with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But it's still hard to say that one system is better than the other. When American elections function as 51 simultaneous elections, they also become harder to manipulate or rig, because you're dealing with 51 different systems. The truth is that we often don't know how strong our institutions are until they're tested. When there's increasing pressure on democracy, well, that's when we'll see which of these two systems will endure.